Everyone, my name is Jade Calver. I own and operate Calver & Associates Canadian Immigration Services. We provide advice on temporary and permanent immigration to Canada. Today I'm going to talk about driving in Canada for new residents. So whether you're coming on a temporary visa or a permanent visa, and what you need to know about driving in Canada, in particular in Ontario. So lots of clients, when they first come to Canada, either as a visitor, a worker, or as a permanent resident, they ask me, Jade, how can I drive in Ontario? What do I need to know? So it really depends on where you're coming from and what driver's license you already have. So most countries in Ontario, so some countries can actually convert their license automatically to a driver's license in Ontario, and others have to go through the full licensing process. So a little bit about our licensing system in Ontario. So there are 3 licenses. So there's the G1 license, which is considered a learner's permit. So you need to have someone who has a full license and who has had it for a certain number of years. And this is what you first get when you're 16 or older, when you're first learning to drive. So you have to pass a learner's written test, and then with your G1 license, you can begin to learn to drive, and you need to show that you have had that for 1 year and you've been learning to drive before you can apply for what is the next license, which is a G2 license. In order to get a G2 license, you need to show that you've been driving on a G1 license for at least 1 year, or with driver's ed, a little bit less. So with this G2 license, you can more or less drive alone with some restrictions about time of day and age, and so this allows you to drive by yourself in a car. After you've had your G2 license for 1 year, then you can apply for what's called a G license, which is a full license in Ontario. And this allows you to drive without restrictions on a full license. So depending where you're coming from in Ontario, you can convert your existing license from your country into this G license. If you're immigrating to Canada, either as a temporary or a permanent resident, you have 60 days you can drive on your foreign license until you need to convert it into an Ontario license. All 50 US states are eligible to convert their license in Ontario. Also, most European countries, so think Ireland, France, Germany, etc., and some Asian countries, so Korea, Taiwan, and a few others, are able to convert their license to get a full license. So that means if you're coming from those countries to Ontario, you can just go to a Service Ontario or a drive test center and just convert your license into an Ontario license. This also gives you the additional bonus of having an Ontario ID right away, which as a temporary resident especially can be helpful when trying to get registered for other services. If you're not from one of these countries that's listed on the Ontario website, then you're going to have to probably retake a test and go through those 3 licenses that I spoke about earlier. So a lot of my clients actually have to go back and they have to get their G1 or a G2 which is the license with some restrictions, and start from there until they can get their full license. So it's important to look into these before you actually come to Canada. Additionally, so these countries that don't qualify to get their full license, so the ones that I mentioned before, it's also important to know that you need to have your international driver's license in order to drive in Canada, and more information about that can be found online. So that's everything when it comes to getting a driver's license in Ontario. If you have any questions about this and how it relates to your status, you can visit our website. We're at calverimmigrationservices.com.